Most times, when I see someone criticize anime in the name of the MeToo movement, I can't help but find them misguided. Welcome back to Otaku Daikun. Today I'm diving into some controversy. Politics, yay! No, seriously, I feel like I can't go a single day without someone going into full rage mode on my beloved anime. Censorship is the new translation, apparently, and if you watch this channel outside of my Fate vids, you'll know how sick of it I am. So yeah, this video is about anime's relationship to the MeToo movement, specifically my defense of the idea that, honestly, anime is in no way a threat to the movement or its ideals. This begs context. For the sake of further proceedings, I'll give my take on the MeToo movement so you know where I'm coming from. Essentially, MeToo is a progressive movement that encourages and empowers victims of sexual abuse to speak out against their assailants, to seek justice despite the potential for retaliation or backlash. It's a fight to get authorities and society in general to take victims' accusations seriously and to view sexual assault as a major offense. I view it as a necessary movement. A lot of times, sexual assault goes lightly punished or is swept under the rug because assailants have influence or authority, making it difficult for victims to stand up against them. Some basic examples would be a manager taking advantage of a subordinate, corrupting their authority by using sexual advances as a bargaining chip for continued or advanced employment. Other times, a judge might let a positively identified rapist off on light charges because they don't want to harm the rapist's athletic career. In worst-case scenarios, the victims stand to lose their jobs and livelihoods simply for seeking justice. Admittedly, our current justice system, as well as other social institutions, prove inadequate to address these issues with the care they deserve. So MeToo's vocal outcry has helped bring attention to the issue. That said, it's not without its faults. MeToo fundamentally operates by amplifying accusations of sexual assault to a far-reaching audience. Because the forces at work don't address these issues, MeToo peers essentially shout louder and louder until their voices are finally heard. Again, this is often necessary, and in best-case scenarios can lead to a legit investigation into the victim's claims that results in sincere correction. Justice can be served via MeToo. At the same time, the movement's reliance on social media in shaping perceptions means that accusations themselves hold more influence than the actual investigation. Essentially, regardless of the verdict, the accusations will be what linger in public consciousness. This leads me to label MeToo as a necessary yet problematic movement that, believe it or not, I'm actually very supportive of. However, that doesn't mean everyone part of the movement speaks gospel. Feminist SJWs, like Anita Sarkeesian, have popularized the idea that works of fiction, as she says, don't exist in a vacuum, that their existence and proliferation shape the minds of their consumers. But as I've mentioned before, we shouldn't treat society as herdable sheep. Rather than blaming the fiction, we should be blaming the ignorant who lack the capacity to think for themselves, to take in fiction as only one small part of their understanding of the world. As it's relevant to my channel, fiction like anime or Japanese games have come under fire for, dare I say, normalizing sexual assault or objectifying women. And I have only one thing to say to that. Censor anime, ban anime, roast anime however you please. It will not lead to justice for abuse victims, nor will it diminish the rape culture that activists blame for perpetuating assault. Anime just puts forth ideals, fantasies, food for thought, and it's up to us to react to it. Playing a game like Senran Kagura, where you can fondle voluptuous breasts, doesn't mean you're the type of person who thinks it's okay for women to be groped in public. It's my own firm belief that fans of anime, people who are a part of the community I'm trying to support, can be wonderful people, sometimes because of the outrageous fantasies they enjoy. Rather than attacking anime, it's much more productive to deal with sexual assault in its own territory. Still, what about anime and games that specifically address issues of sexual assault? For that, I have 3 different examples that have drawn critical ire from SJWs on what I consider to be false premises. These are Valkyria Chronicles 4, Sword Art Online Alicization, and The Rising of the Shield Hero. so expect mild spoilers for each. You may have heard of these controversies already, but I want to put my own words to them. Starting with Valkyria Chronicles 4, a good ways into the game, you'll encounter a scene in which your squad's star shock trooper, Raz, aggressively clenches his female colleague, Kai's, ass.
Guess it's just woman's intuition.
Except that I'm a man here. Don't forget it.
Like there's any chance of that. But seriously, no guy's got an ass this tight.
As you can see, she's not gonna take Raz's sexism, and responds by clobbering his ass. The rest of the squad gets excited to see a fight break out, finding the ordeal as entertainment. The general consensus of the outrage is centered on the fact that Raz is never formally reprimanded for his behavior. In an ideal scenario, he would be brought up on charges, found guilty, and penalized for sexually assaulting a fellow soldier. Because this scene doesn't exist in a vacuum, it normalizes the idea that Raz's behavior is okay, that it can be just resolved with a brawl. To that, I wholeheartedly disagree. It's obvious that Raz sexually assaulted Kai, and that's a big deal. But I don't think the story has an obligation to present us with an ideal scenario. In all of these examples, I want to assert that we enjoy fiction for presenting us with worlds in conflict. After all, conflict is drama. The reason we're following this military squad in the first place is that they're up against the tyranny of an empire in a wartime setting. The major dramatic question is whether or not they can win the war. In the same way, the military's inability to address sexual assault can be seen as just one of the many things that pose a conflict in their world, alongside issues of darkson racism seen in previous titles. When you put the severity of these conflicts side by side, it's easy to see that one is more significant than the other. The members of your squad don't even know if they'll survive their next battle. Your superiors don't even know if it's possible to win the war, and are busy trying not to get annihilated. Contextually, it makes sense that neither the soldiers nor the military itself want to sacrifice valuable time on the sexual assault, especially when Kai herself doesn't feel the need to press charges. This doesn't make Raz's behavior okay by any means, but it does show that when you pool all your resources into one effort, you often make sacrifices in others. Furthermore, while the sexual assault issue doesn't get brought up all that often again, Raz's aggressive, careless behavior does become a recurring problem. Hell, one of the coolest mechanics in the game is that all the soldiers you elect into your squad have character strengths and weaknesses that you can't necessarily change. In Raz's case, he's a talented shock trooper, but he's overly aggressive and occasionally defiant. Using him, along with any other recruit, comes with risks and rewards, and as the squad leader, Claude, the player has full control of who gets deployed in most battles. As such, the game gives you the choice to decommission Raz if you feel like doing so, but this comes with a rather significant mechanical disadvantage. Story-based characters, such as Raz, grant you an extra command point in battle for deploying them. This means that, in terms of gameplay, Raz is objectively superior to the other shock troopers. If you refuse to deploy him, you're accepting a handicap. But there's a lesson in this. Doing what's right isn't always easy, a concept that's profoundly relevant to MeToo. Think of it this way: you manage a team of salespeople and discover that your top salesperson happens to be an active sexual predator. Morally speaking, you'd want to fire this individual or charge them for their crimes, but doing so will directly affect your own income. If you're in it for profit, you might overlook this person's crimes, so long as they continue to bring in excellent sales numbers. This sort of corruption is genuinely possible, and the reason more reputable companies have HR departments. Ultimately, rather than blatantly normalizing sexual assault, Valkyria Chronicles 4 grants us the ability to choose between our morals or combat efficiency, allowing us to navigate an already existing, real-life dilemma. Next, we have the events that lead up to Episode 10 of Sword Art Online Alicization. As you may already know, Episode 10 has a rape scene, one that Aniplex of America foolishly chose to censor for online streaming. Regardless of that, however, people were outraged that SAO had once again utilized rape for its narrative. They accused SAO of lazily relying on sexual assault for shock value, and by doing so casually, it offends people for the sake of being edgy. There's a ton I could say about this as it relates to other instances of rape in anime, such as in Goblin Slayer, but there's a reason why I'm addressing SAO. And that's context. It's very important to understand what led up to the rape, and what it means for the story. In this arc, Kirito and his friend Yu-Gi-Oh! Are studying at a swordsmanship academy of sorts, one that has a strict rank system. New students, like Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are assigned to senior trainees as valets, essentially pages and apprentices. Seniority is key here, and Kirito himself is a valet for Sortiliena, an honorable and talented swordswoman. She teaches and inspires him, showing the system at its best. When she and her class graduate, Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Become the next elite trainees, and are each assigned their own valets, Ronye and Ties, respectively. Under the system, gender is insignificant, whether it's a female presiding over a male or vice versa. In a healthy relationship, the elite gives their valet tasks to complete that are relevant to their training as knights. But of course, there must be conflict. Ties informs her elite, Yu-Gi-Oh!, that her friend and fellow valet, Frenica, is being ordered to do uncomfortable things for her superior, Humbert. While he may not be violating any law in doing so, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Kirito agree that just because it's not illegal doesn't mean Humbert's actions are professional or appropriate. Yu-Gi-Oh! Does the right thing, taking Ties's accusations seriously, and begins his investigation by confronting Humbert about the claims. Humbert plays this off like a creep, claiming he was merely ordering Frenica to massage his tired muscles, and that for her sake, he has her stripped to her underwear so her clothes won't get sweaty. I shouldn't need to explain how this definitely qualifies as sexual assault. Yu-Gi-Oh! Ain't taking his bullshit, and threatens to report his behavior if he doesn't stop. So yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did the right thing, investigating the claims, and diplomatically addressing the issue within the system available to him. Of course, this doesn't stop anything. Instead, Humbert gets even more aggressive with Frenica, to the point where Ties and Ronye decide to confront him themselves, only to find themselves bondage-tied on Humbert's bed. You see, Humbert and his roommate Rios are of high nobility, and in their society, that grants them special authority over anyone below them. Thus, even though the Academy does not condone an elite raping theirs or someone else's valet, they are permitted to punish the girls in any way they see fit to correct their supposed insubordination. Yu-Gi-Oh! Finds himself forced to stand and watch as two innocent girls are horrifically raped by nobles. There's no systematic way to save them, as the nobles outrank him. Mechanically, being an artificial fluctlight, he can't physically oppose them without inflicting self-harm. Regardless, he forces himself to fight, which causes his eye to explode, and he attacks Humbert, leading to Kirito defending Yu-Gi-Oh! From Rios. Rios dies, Humbert flees, and the girls are saved. But Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Are systematically deemed criminals, and are to be executed for their actions. Ties and Ronye apologize, but Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Let them know that none of this is their fault. No victim shaming here, folks. So, I don't see rape lazily tossed into a story for shock value. I see a fairly realistic scenario in which girls are struggling with sexual abuse from a particular superior and turn to someone they trust for help. Yu-Gi-Oh! Takes proper action to help the girls, but is forced to take matters into his own hands when the system utterly fails him. He's punished for trying to do the right thing. Isn't this the exact scenario that MeToo is trying to fight? It sure seems that way to me. We're presented with a story about sexual assault victims encountering systematic hardship, and, unlike a lot of the weaker points in SAO's story, this was actually written really well. Oh, and if you're upset that this whole ordeal makes Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh! Look like underdog heroes for saving the damsels in distress, your view is pretty warped. Someone who truly cares about the MeToo movement should want everyone, both male and female, to take accusations seriously. A victim should, ideally, feel comfortable going to anyone for help regardless of their sex. The last example is the fundamental premise behind the rising of the shield hero. It's actually a very conventional isekai, until the plot takes a unique spin. Our protag, Naofumi, finds himself transported to a fairly traditional fantasy world as the shield hero. Sadly, among the other three chosen heroes, the shield hero kinda sucks, and nobody wants to team up with him. Fortunately, there's one woman, Malti, who offers to join him. Unfortunately, Malti happens to be taking advantage of Naofumi, stealing his armor and money before accusing him of raping her. The king, and pretty much everyone else, believe Malty and condemn Naofumi for a crime he didn't commit. This sets Naofumi up to be the story's anti-hero who seeks justice against the woman who ruined his life. It's easy to see where SJWs would mistakenly find offense in this. The manga and anime present us with a female antagonist who commits evil by using her beauty to lure in unsuspecting men and ruin them. In other words, a siren. SJWs claim this type of woman is a myth that perpetuates the idea that accusers are merely seeking to ruin the reputations of and profit from the accused. They want to stress that, realistically, a victim has no incentive to go through the struggle of accusing someone of sexual assault if it isn't true. I totally get that. As I mentioned before, it can take a lot of bravery to put yourself on the line by accusing someone of assaulting you. Even if you succeed, there's a good chance others will criticize you for it. That said, to assert that nobody has ever lied about sexual assault or profited from accusations is absurd. The goal of MeToo isn't supposed to be to create a society in which the accused are immediately guilty, that assumes any accusation is 100% genuine. If you think that way, shame on you. Rather, I feel it's in the true spirit of MeToo to entertain all accusations, but follow up on them with thorough investigation. No, not like the lazy effort the FBI put into investigating Brett Kavanaugh, and not just seeing one piece of evidence without forensic analysis and assuming guilt. In fact, among the sexual assailants and systems that protect them, false accusers, whistleblowers, are one of the movement's greatest opponents. I would expect any true MeToo supporter to watch Shield Hero and root for Naofumi while condemning his accuser. It's not making the claim that false accusations are common, but merely pointing out the genuine threat that false accusations pose to seeking justice for victims. Regarding rape, sexual assault, and the institutions that preside over them, I've read arguments that claim our entertainment, our fantasies, shouldn't try to use such serious topics to spice themselves up, that putting sexual assault into a fictional work is just shamelessly profiting off of real-life issues. I get it, but I also say that's bullshit. The fact that these types of stories are so compelling is because they present relevant issues and conflicts. Believe you me, I love the old gold-hoarding dragon premise, but it's not exactly new and fresh. Our fantasies are able to stay relevant and modern by tackling sensitive issues and real-world problems, while still maintaining their status as fiction. So yeah, if anything, works of fiction help us question and investigate these societal issues, so we can find our own truths, rather than brainwash us into misogynist mentalities. With that, I hope I haven't triggered too many of you, that instead you've been able to indulge in a new perspective. Either way, I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe to Otaku Daikun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, live streams, and the Holy Waifu Wars. If you're interested in seeing this channel grow, please consider becoming a patron or donating in a super chat during any of my weekly live streams. Also, feel free to check the description for my social media profiles, including an ever-growing Discord full of fans of anime and the Fate series. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.